Hello parents and professionals. So it is that most wonderful time of the year where you will be undoubtedly seeing friends, family, relatives and everybody else in between to share festive joy. And I am going to speak to you today about how you can ensure that during this period your children and young people are polite, they are grateful, and that they really use their manners in such a way that people feel really blessed to have them around during the Christmas period. So if you would like to know more about that, then you just have to keep on watching. So I'm going to do it at the start today because sometimes I forget. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. So you're going to click the red subscribe button first. Click the notifications bell. That will make sure that you get a little notification the next time we have a video that uploads. And you're also going to like it in advance. You can always dislike it at the end, but to be honest, we don't care if you dislike it because any kind of engagement is good. So you may as well just like it. Alright, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about Christmas and how at this time of the year, obviously, our children and young people can get very, very excited, and they can get an awful lot of gifts for them to enjoy, and they may not always, maybe due to embarrassment, maybe due to just being overwhelmed, but they may not always react in the best possible way in front of others, especially when you've got extended family or friends that they don't see too often. They don't always show up as their best possible selves. So I'm going to give you, so this isn't really for them, this is more for how you create an environment where they really behave themselves in the way that you would like them to. That's what I want to discuss with you today. So something that I notice when I have children and young people who come to see me in my therapy clinic is that sometimes they don't behave well there. And I'm not there to offer discipline at that moment in time. In fact, it's quite interesting for me to see how the parent or the guardian who has brought that child in, how they respond to this child's unwanted behaviour. Because what often happens when we're in front of people that we want to make a good impression in front of is that you don't sort of want to say or do anything that might make you, the parent, appear bad in some way. And because of that, very often you end up appearing bad in some way. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. I might notice that a child is misbehaving in front of me and in front of their parent, but that parent doesn't do very much to take control of that situation. Instead, they would try to pacify the child in some way. They might try to negotiate with them. They might speak to them in a very calm and gentle way. And it's none of that, none of what I've just listed there is for the child. That's for me. They do that for me so that I don't see them losing their cool. And that's something that can happen around Christmas time when you've got the friends and family visiting and your child is hyped because it's Christmas and they've had loads of sugar and they've got loads of presents, that rather than addressing their behaviour in a more firm way, you may be more inclined to negotiate, pacify, say things to try and calm them down so that you don't make more of a scene. Now, here's the challenge with that kind of reaction from a parent. It doesn't work. And actually, for the people that are observing you, it doesn't make you look like you are handling the situation in a very strong way. It makes you appear as if you are not comfortable in your parenting. And worst of all, your child knows it. So not only will they fail to respond in a helpful way, they will also start forming opinions and distinctions around what they can get away with in particular types of environments. They know that in this environment, you don't feel like you can step up, which means that they can keep stepping all over you. And that will get logged, it will get noted for next time. And then before you know it, you're in a situation where you feel very uncomfortable having your children around when friends are there, when extended family is there, because you know that the kids are going to get too wild, and the kids know that they can get away with behaving that way because you're not going to address it firmly enough. In a situation like this, you're hoping that if you are reasonable, that your child will be reasonable too. And here's the thing, children are not reasonable. In fact, they're egocentric. Now, I don't say that to be mean towards children. I love children. But they are egocentric. The world revolves around them. They're designed to be that. Like, they have to be designed to be that way. It's the way that they make sure that they get cared for. And with human children, they need a lot of caring for. It's not like when Bambi's born and then 10 minutes later is able to walk around and run and feed itself, and basically has got the entire setup there of being an adult deer, but is just smaller and more cute. With humans, it takes them like 21 years to get to the adult stage, so they spend a long time not being fully functional, and they rely on adults to meet their needs for them. That's why they're egocentric. It's not because they're deliberately being difficult. It may seem that way sometimes, but they're not deliberately being difficult. They just need you to be the one that sorts everything out, and that includes setting the boundaries for them too. Now, one of the other things that I might notice in my case when I see parents who are reluctant to lay down the rules and set those boundaries and say, this is unacceptable behaviour, sit yourself up, or whatever else it might be, is sometimes they feel that it would be, and this is just a judgment, I don't know this to be true, but I have a sense of this, sometimes they are waiting for me to take the lead so that they don't have to be the bad parent who was disciplining their child in this situation. And it's my environment. They're in my office. So there may be a sense that it's down to me to manage that environment and to manage the scene. Now, that's true to some extent. To some extent, if I see them touching something I don't want them to touch, I'm going to jump in and say so. But ultimately, the responsibility for how that child is behaving and acting is still with the parent. It's not with me. I may be inclined to jump in if I see that they're going to, maybe touch something that's precious to me, but they wouldn't know that that thing was precious because this is a new environment. If, on the other hand, they're about to do something dangerous, let's imagine I had a fireplace. I don't, but, let's imagine I did. Then that's easy to see that this is a danger, that it is unacceptable to stick your fingers in the fireplace. In which case, I fully expect a parent to take control in those circumstances, even though the environment is mine. And the environment is under my control. Now, if you're taking your children to family members or to friends over the Christmas period, this lends itself to the question of who's going to be in charge of your child in this other person's environment. Should it be the person who's in charge of the environment, or should it be the person that's in charge of the child? Many people will feel uncomfortable disciplining or even guiding your children as to how they should behave, even though it's their own environment, because it's your child. So you have to be the one to step up, and you can't let the idea of appearing to be too tough, of making too much of a scene, of being coming across too strict or too mean, get in the way of you enforcing boundaries on your children's behaviour and their reactions and their level of politeness when they are in someone else's environment. You still have to take responsibility for that. And I can promise you that when you do, the people who are observing you, whether you're in your home or theirs, will have more respect for you for being very clear with your children about how you want them to behave, and being at times strict with them to let them know when they've overstepped the line. They will respect that far more than if they spend time with you kind of cringing and biting their fists as they watch you unsuccessfully pacify and attempt to calm down a child just so that you don't have to look like the bad guy in front of your friends and extended family. I hope that what I've just said there makes sense. I know that was a lot of information crammed into a very short video, but I think this is a really important lesson. Don't let your own embarrassments and your own awkwardnesses, that's not a word, is it? Your own awkwardness get in the way of you parenting successfully, enforcing boundaries, keeping your children safe, and being very clear with them when their behaviour is unacceptable because they've just got overexcited due to it being Christmas. Now, if you feel deeply uncomfortable doing that with an audience there, my suggestion on a practical level is that you say to your child, "Step outside with me. Sorry guys, we'll be back in 2 minutes." And you take them off somewhere private, which may, depending on the age of your child and the circumstances that you're in, be the more appropriate thing to do anyway. And you take them off and you have a quiet word in their ear, but you are very clear that what you just did then, the way that you spoke to me in front of everybody, was completely unacceptable. And if you cannot rein this in, calm yourself down and start to behave like a reasonable human being in front of our friends and family, then we will go home, or I will be taking that thing away, or whatever else, that it needs, of course, to be something that you can absolutely follow through on. 3 strikes and then we're done. So that you don't have to chop their head off though, that's a little bit too dramatic. So yeah, make sure that you do the boundary and behaviour enforcement stuff. You don't need to humiliate your child in the process. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes they may need calling out in front of other people to give them that shock and to really get them to realise that they are having an impact on the whole environment and not just you. But a great deal of the time, you don't need to embarrass yourself or embarrass them by having these conversations in front of the entire audience. You can take them off to one side, but you must make sure that you still do it and don't leave that responsibility to anybody else. And that is everything for today. I hope that was a useful video for you, and I will see you all in the brand new year. Have a wonderful Christmas and a very happy new year to you. Bye.